Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Today in this tutorial I will teach you how to connect your MySQL database with PHP or using PHP, and then how to send your forms data to the database. So for this purpose, first of all, what you have to do is you just have to go to this local host and your dashboard. This is what you have to write in your browser. When you click on it, it will take you to this page. Okay, you can go directly from here to PHP myadmin. If I click on this tab, it will take me to PHP myadmin. Okay, and here you can create your databases and you can work with it. But first of all, what we have to do is we have to change the password for our database. So in order to change the password for database, if you go here, how to guides, this tab, there is a option over here which is reset the MySQL or Maria database root password, because by default for root the password is nothing, it's empty. So it is suggested that whenever you are going to use your XAMPP and you create database with it, so you make sure that you have to change your password, because it is a serious security risk. So in order to change your root password, what you have to do is, first of all, the first step is you have to open your XAMPP control panel. Like here, this is my XAMPP control panel, and then you have to start Apache and MySQL server. You click on start, so these both server will start. Okay, so after that what you have to do is you have to use this command. If you are going to use it first time, like you want to change, because by default there is no password, so from no password to a new password, what you have to do is you have to run this command. Okay, how to run this command? You just have to go here, MySQL, and here you have a shell. So you just click on this shell will open, and you can just copy paste this command like here, or if let's suppose this one. This command will work only when you are going to change your default root password first time from empty. Okay, because first time it is empty. I have already changed it, so it will not work for me. But if it is not changed yet and first time you are going to assign password, because it is by default empty, so what you have to do is just copy paste this command and here password, and in inverted commas here right now I write new password. Here you can add your password, whatever password you want to give to your new account, you can give it a password. Okay, like here I am giving this a password like this. Okay, when you will enter this command, hit return key, your password will be changed to the password that you provided over here. Okay, if you have already changed your password and now you want to change that password to a new password, then also in this guide there is a command, like if a password has already been set and you want to change it, then you can use this command. So what you have to do is, because I have already a password, so what you can do is MySQL admin user is root password, and here you have to provide your old password, whatever your old password was. You have to write over here your old password, and then like for me my old password was GUE55ME, and my new password, let's suppose I wanna give it a new password, ECCE5265DB. let's suppose this is my new password. So when I click enter, my password has been changed. My old password was GUE55ME and I have changed it to ECCE5265DB. In order to make sure that my password has been changed or not, you just have to run this command. Just copy it and paste it over here. Okay, and here you have to provide the new password that you just give. Okay. Okay, this is the old password. Now I change it to what? ECCE 5265 capital D and small b. So if you get output like this, it shows that your password has been changed successfully. So all this tutorial is over here in your main page of localhost dashboard. So first thing is you have to change your root password, MySQL root password, from empty to some password. Okay, what you have to do next, you have to connect now your MySQL database through PHP. So first of all we have to create a database. So what I will do is I will go to after changing the password, the next thing that you have to do is you have to configure that password in a file. Which file? Okay, if I go to my C folder, here is XAMPP. If I click on XAMPP, then you have PHP myadmin over here, and in PHP myadmin there is this file config.inc. so you have to write your password into this file. This file has a code in it. When I open this config.inc.php is open over here. So first of all what you have to give here, user is root and password here it was old password. So I will change it to my new password, that is ECCE 5265 capital D and small b, and I have to save it. Okay, so you have to first open this config.inc file from PHP myadmin folder, and you have to write, because when you open it, it will be empty for you, and then you have to add whatever the new password that you assign to your MySQL and have to change it. Once you have changed it, then you can go to PHP myadmin. Now if I will click here PHP myadmin, it will take me over here to PHP myadmin page. So now what I will do is, now I will create a database over here and I will connect this database with my PHP file. Okay, so for this purpose I will first create a database. So mydb, okay, the name of my database. So how to create database? Go to database tab, click on this create db, and here you will have to give the name. So let's suppose I'm going to give it a name mydb, and here you will choose UTF-8 general CI and click create. So this mydb has been created. Okay, now what I will do is I will connect with this mydb from PHP. So in order to connect to it, I will write a code in PHP. Okay, for this purpose, in order to connect PHP file with my newly created database, I will go to back to expression web, and I will create a new PHP file. Like here I create a file database connect.php. okay, and in this file now I added PHP code. I started here PHP tag, and then this code is used to create a connection with database. Okay, so in order to connect to database, first of all I declare few variables over here. First variable, I assigned it a name, server name, and my server right now here is localhost, so I will provide here localhost as a server name. Then username by default in XAMPP is root. Right now I'm working on root, so my username is root. Password, right now I just create a password, okay, ECC5265DB, so this will be my password, and database name mydb. Okay, and then what you have to do is, after declaring these 4 variables, now I will start with the connection establishment. In order to establish a connection, okay, I declare another variable. The name of this variable is connection, CONN, and equals to mysqli_connect. So this is the function that I'm going to call to create a connection with my database, and to this function I am going to provide 4 input parameters. The input parameters are server name. So in server name, instead of it, localhost will pass over here, then username, root will pass to it, and then password, whatever password will pass to it, and db name, so my database will be passed to it. So this statement will establish a connection with my database. Okay, so if after establishing a connection, if we have to check if the connection establishment is successful or not. So how do we check that if connection establishment is successful or not? We have to check for failure condition. So here, if not connection, if this does not return true, then it return false, and not will make it true. So it means that connection is not established successfully. So in that case, we have to call this die function, and we have to write here connection failed and the error that is the cause of this connection. So anytime when you are going to connect with your database from PHP, you always have to write this code. Okay, and here I declare 4 different variables, and then I call these variables over here, but you can directly write it like this as well. Like, you know, I can directly write here server name local host okay. I can write this thing directly over here as well, or I can declare 4 variables and then I can pass those variable values also. So if I'm going to write it directly, then there is no need to write all these 5 line of code. You can do it directly. But this is the better programming practice, like if you declare variables and assign them, and if later on you want to change it, you just have to change here the values of these variable to connect to any database. So whatever way you want, you can do it. So right now I'm doing it that way, so I'll keep it like that. Okay, after connection establishment, so this is the code for establishing a connection. So once we have create a MySQL database connection, now I will teach you how to create a table from PHP code. Like if we are writing PHP file, and this file will create a table in my database. So here for creating a table, I just took another variable. I give this variable a name SQL and equals to or assign a value of, and here I write a query, that is the normal query to create table. So I'm going to create a table. Table name is, okay, I'm gonna write it as user, okay, or users, we can do it users, and it has fields user ID, user email, user password, user name, and user date of birth, where user ID is the primary key and it is auto increment, so it is surrogate key. User don't need to add it, it will automatically be inserted, and for every new record it will be incremented. So I write just normal SQL query over here in these inverted commas, you can see, and I just assign the value to this PHP variable SQL. Okay, until here I just assign this variable, this query, and how to actually create a table. So for this I will have to run this query, how to execute this query. So in order to execute this query, what I will going to do is I will use this function mysql underscore query. Okay, and like here I use for data connection mysql I underscore connect. So in order to execute query, whenever you want to execute query, you will have to use this function mysql I underscore query, and we have to provide 2 variables to it. The first variable is the database connection where you create here conn, that variable. Okay, so this query will be executed on this database, and second variable is the query variable, the variable in which you store your query. So once if this is successful, if MySQL query executed successfully, it will return true, and if true, then it will echo on the screen table user created successfully. But if this query does not return true, then else will execute and it show that error creating table. Okay, and that's all about the database connection and how to create a table in the database. So let's see now how we will execute this code and see whether it works or not. So for that, let's save it and click here on for execution. Okay, so after execution you can see here on the screen table user created successfully. So let's go back to PHP myadmin and see if our table has been created or not. So for that purpose I will go back to my PHP myadmin and okay, and the database that I just created, mydb, and you will see here in mydb our table users has been created. And if you look at this table users, it has user ID, user email, user password, username and user date of birth. Okay, so this new table has been created here in mydb database. Okay, now the table has been created already. What we have to do next is we are going to insert data into this table, but in order to insert data into this table we will create a form, our user registration form, and data will be inserted here into this newly created table from the form. So for this purpose I created here two forms. One is for user login and one is for user registration, like here register account. Okay, this is the user registration form and we are asking user to enter data here in this user registration form. Whatever data user enter over here, when user click on the register button, that data we are going to store over here in our newly created this table, users table. Okay, in mydb user table we are going to insert data that we will get here from this user registration form. So for this purpose what we have to do is we first create a HTML file. We call it register account.html. okay, this is the design, and this is the code for it, and this is normal form design. All of you know how to design a form using web expression. So the thing is that we have over here, like when we create a form, what we have to do is we have to add a method and action. So method, as we know that method we should select always post because it is more secure, and for action we have to send this data to a PHP file, and the name of this file is register.php, which I already created in the same folder here, register.php. But I will not just write register.php, because if I will write just register.php, my code will not be successfully sent to PHP file. So here when you are working in Expression Web 4, you have to write here complete this. HTTP localhost 6918 is the port number on which it is running right now in my system. For you can see by yourself. And here then register.php. So for action I'm going to write it like this. Okay, so this is my register account.html file where I created a normal registration form. Okay, when I created this registration form, like I have different fields: name, email, password, repeat password and date of birth. And you can see over here, like for name I give this field name, username, uname. For email I give this field a name, email. For password I give it a name, password. Okay, repeat password we are not going to use it right now. And for date of birth I give it a name, DOB. So this is normal my HTML file where I create this form. But in action I am going to send the data of this form to this PHP file, register.php. Okay, now let's go and see what is there in register.php file. Now in register.php file, what we want to take user input from this file, and want to send it to database through register.php. So this HTML file will send all information of the form to register.php, and register.php will insert this information to the database. So first what we have to do here in register.php, we have to connect ourselves to the database. In order to connect ourselves to the database, first of all we need to create a connection. How to create connection? We already see over here how to create connection. So I will just copy paste this code from here, connection establishment, because here I did it previously for another. Okay, so this code is for connecting ourselves to the database, okay, the one that we created right now. Okay, so first you have to connect with database, and then you have to get value from the form and save it in local PHP variables. So for that purpose what we did is, if server request method is post, then we declare 4 variables: email, password, username and date of birth, and we retrieve the value from the register account.html, email, password, uname and date of birth. This email, password, uname, date of birth is there here in this code. This uname, email, password and date of birth. So this value we took it from this register account.html and save here in our local PHP variables. It would be great if we, when copy these files, we follow this or thing that we already know, that strip slashes. If there is any empty space or slashes, it will be stripped from here, from the user input. So we just call this strip slashes function, and before copying the values to our local PHP variables, so I just call this strip slashes function over here. Okay, so this will clean our value from the form and save it in our local variables, em for email, pd for password, un for username and db for date of birth. And now I want to insert it into my database. So how can I insert into database? First of all, I will again create a query. For query, I just declare a variable SQL, okay, in PHP, and then I write this query. Okay, insert into name of the table. Now table name is the one that we just created over here, this database connect. Here we create table name was users. So I want to insert this value into the table. Name of the table is users, and it has which fields I want to insert data into. If you look into the users table, first field is user ID, but we are not assigning user ID. We write here auto increment. So this is a surrogate primary key which will automatically be incremented by 1. So that's why we don't want to enter any data for it. But for the rest of the 4 things, we are going to enter values: user email, user password, name and date of birth. So when we are registering over here in the query, we just write user email, password, name and date of birth, but we did not write user ID. Why we did not write user ID here? Because user ID we are auto incrementing it. This is surrogate key. Database will automatically insert it. We are not taking any value from user, or user is not inserting anything. So we are not writing user ID here. Okay. So, and then values is our keyword, and then what we want to insert in username, user email, we write here this variable em, that just we took it from the form. Whatever user enter in the form, we assign it to this variable em, and now we are inserting this variable em into database in user email. Same is for password, for username and date of birth. So we write here these 4 variables which we take from user. Okay, so right now we just create a query. Now we have to execute this query. In order to execute query, we know that we have to call this function mySQL _query, and we have to provide here first variable is the connection that we created above. CONN, and then the second variable is this query that we write over here, where we give it a name SQL. So okay, if this query executes successfully, this function will return true. If it is true, then what we want to do is we are just selecting user ID from user, where user email is whatever user provide. Again we write another query. Here we execute this query, and then we are fetching some rows from the table, and just we write echo welcome and username, and your account has been created successfully. Or else error, and we give it like how can we find out what is the error, so that error will be printed over here. Okay, so let's just execute it and see how it works. We will not execute register.php. I'll just save everything, and we will execute register account.html. okay, we will execute this file. Let's do it. Okay, so now let's execute register account.html. okay, it gives us this form, and I will enter some data over here like Aisha. Okay, I will give some password. Date of birth, and then I will click here register. Okay, date of birth should be okay, format, and you can validate these fields also. You know how can we validate all the fields. Password is equals to repeat password, date of birth, format is correct or not. You people already know how to do it. You can validate the values before sending it to the database. Okay, so then we click on register button. Okay, so it will give me welcome Aisha, your account has been created successfully. Okay, there is some warning, just ignore it. And then here login. Okay, this is the login link to the login page. So the next step what we have to do is, now we have to okay, first we have to see whether the value whatever we inserted data over here, Aisha, does it successfully inserted into the database or not. For this we can go back to our user table here, my database. Okay, I'll just refresh it. Okay, and you can see now this user ID Aisha@gmail, password ABCDEFG, username Aisha, date of birth is there, and similarly I previously inserted one row, so it was over there already. So now what you have to do is, the next thing what we will learn is, when you click on this login button, it will take you to, now you have registered a user can log in. So this is just a link to the login page. So when I click login, it takes me over here to this login page, again a form, and now we already have a data in the database, so we have to perform normal authentication of user. So for authenticating a user, what we have to do is, we have to write here user email like Aisha and password. If I provide the correct password, so it should give me a message that you have been logged in successfully. Okay, once we provided here the email, the registered user email and password, when we click on this login, if the password is correct, it gives me a message welcome and username, like this username is Aisha, so it will give me like this, welcome Aisha. And if I provide wrong username or password, so it should give me a proper message that username or password is incorrect. So if I will provide here some wrong password, so it will give me a message username or password are incorrect. So in order to do this task, where you have to design this user login form and then send data to login.php file, which will connect with the database and then select data from the database and compare it, whatever user enter already exist in database or not. So for this purpose you have to send the data from login.html file to the login.php file, and login.php file will then perform database connection and then verify the user provided input values are same as what is stored in database or not. And if the user does not have yet registered, don't have account, then register now. This message should be here and user click on register button, so it can take to register form your, and user can register himself. So I already give you a tutorial on how to create this user registration form, connect with the database, create a table using PHP, and then how to send data from the form to the database, how can we insert data over there. Now the assignment is for this week is, now you have to do this thing, you have to create this form and have to verify that the provided password is correct or not. Another thing that that will be the part of it is, like right now if we go into the database, we can see our passwords are stored in clear, but this is not secure at all. For practical purpose, your password should always be encrypted, it should never be inserted in clear form. So how can we change this password when we are inserting into database? There is a built-in function available in PHP which can encrypt this user password before or hash. We will not call it encrypt but hashing the password. There is a password hashing tutorial available. You can go over there and see how can you hash the password before storing it in the database for security purpose. So I hope now this is clear for you, and you can do your lab assignment number 5 based on this tutorial. Thank you.